Hello, everyone. Welcome to Lazada Sustainability Academy. Through this program, we hope to share with you the necessary knowledge to future-proof and transform your business's sustainability. I'm your host, Casey from Lazada. In an era of increasing environmental awareness, quantifying environmental impacts has become a necessity for businesses seeking to stay competitive. Measuring the environmental aspects of the business allows one to effectively manage their footprint and identify additional cost saving and businesses opportunities. Let's hear it from Brian, partner and sustainability and climate assurance leader for Deloitte, Asia Pacific and Southeast Asia. With over 20 years of experience in the field of sustainability development, Brian oversees Deloitte's ESG services in the Asia Pacific region and also sits on various sustainability committees in Singapore and beyond. Brian, very great to have you with us.
Thank you, Casey.
So, what are the common environmental impacts from Southeast Asia's SMEs and why are they important?
Thank you. This is a really good question because SME in Southeast Asia plays a very significant role in the economy of the regions, and I believe in most of the countries, over 90% of the business are SMEs. So, of course, they contribute to the economy by providing employment and also contributing to the GDP. But they also have relevant environmental impacts that need to be measured and mitigated as well. For example, I can give some examples. For example, air pollutions, which many SMEs engage in manufacturing and also production process that will release pollutants to the air, contributing to the air pollutions. Or besides from air pollutions, also water pollutions and water usage as well. As many of those, they will discharge wastewater into the water bodies, and they also consume significant amounts of water for their production process, contributing to the water stress in areas where water resources are scarce as well as waste generation and management. So, given that waste production is also an important and significant issues with inadequate disposal and also recycling practices as well. And of course, also the last one is regarding sort of the impact on energy consumption as well, which they use. Many of the SMEs, due to the lack of investment, they will often use energy inefficient technologies and also depends on fossil fuels. So these are common types of environmental impacts that we see SME are creating in their business process. But of course, this is also really important to measures by those SMEs as well, given that there are several reasons behind. First is we are seeing that environmental regulations are becoming more stringent in most of the Southeast Asian countries. So compliance with regulations will be first priorities for SMEs to looking at in order to survive and meet the legal requirements. So this is something that across the countries, many of the regulators are putting quite a lot of focuses on, and compliance can help companies to avoid legal responsibility and fines as well. And of course, also looking at market access and competitiveness, especially many SMEs, they are also the suppliers of global companies. Those international partners or even the general consumers in Southeast Asia, they are becoming more and more environmentally conscious. So SME will need to look at how to adhere to environmental standards and help them to have better access to the markets and also establish themselves as a responsible and competitive players as well. And then, of course, also looking at risk management, because environmental risk is actually one of the big one that many regulators are looking at. When we look at different types of the environmental risk, looking at climate, biodiversity, nature. So risk management will be another driving force for SMEs to look at how to minimize their environmental impacts. And of course, also looking at social license to operate, especially the local communities. They are expecting companies that operating in their local, in the regions, will need to engage in responsible environmental practice so that they can enhance their reputations and acceptance by the local communities and stakeholders. So we just talk about the compliance, legal compliance, market access, and also social license to operate. But eventually, it will come to a questions about the financial implications. Regarding everything, we come back to the costs. I mean, the operating costs of the companies in terms of looking at whether if they are not comply with the local laws and regulations, they may be fined by the government. If they are not managing the environmental impact, they may lost in the markets. So this is regarding how to look at the financial side of managing environmental risk, but environmental impact. But of course, we are also seeing that more and more financial institutions, especially the banks, when they do business with companies, when they give a loan to the companies, they are also assessing companies' performance on environmental management as well. So access to financing will be another very critical factors that companies will need to look at when they are talking about their environmental, minimizing or reducing their environmental impact as well. So these are all the driving force that we are seeing, no matter from the government, from the private sector, and from the clients of the SMEs, that will lead them to think about more and more about managing their environmental impact.
Looking at something more specific, what metrics can SMEs selling consumer goods use to measure their environmental impacts? And how can they effectively track these metrics in their operations?
Yeah, thanks, Casey. Yeah, this is a really important question because if you are not measuring what you need to manage, so you are not doing a good management, right? So quantifying environmental impact for SME in this sector, in the consumer goods sector, is crucial for sustainable operations as well as responsible business practices. So there are several common metrics that we are seeing companies are used to quantify environmental impacts and ways in which business can effectively track them. So regular monitoring and tracking are the important part. So what are the common environmental impact measures? I believe there are several ones that companies will need to look at. First, of course, we mentioned about pollutions, the greenhouse gas emissions, or carbon footprint of the companies when they operate their business will be one really important one to look at. So many companies will measure their greenhouse gas emission generated directly or indirectly by their business. So, for example, looking at their energy, looking at their energy consumptions, looking at whether they have any equipments that will produce such those greenhouse gases such as SNOx or NOx or methane, different types of greenhouse gas as well. So carbon will be definitely the most important one that the market is looking at, especially when we talk about how we can tackle climate change together. But of course, also looking at other types of the matrix that will have some implication to the cost of companies as well, including, of course, energy consumptions, how you can quantify the amount of energy used in your productions or distribution of the goods. We do believe that there are numbers of ways that you can check your electricity bill, if you own your company vehicles, how much fuel you're consuming. So energy consumption will be another one, which on one hand makes sense to contribution to sustainability, but also makes sense to your managing your operating costs as well. And then, of course, also looking at water. I mean, the volume of water used in various process is another common matrix that companies are managing, especially in some industries that water usage is a critical one for the business process. And of course, also looking at some impact of waste generations, how much waste that companies are produce, including solid waste, hazardous waste, or even e-waste as well. And for some companies, they are also looking at some supply chain sustainability as well, given that they may not own their own factories, but if their supplying factories got into any problem of, for example, child labor, forced labor, even if the companies will also get into trouble. The company that sell the products that were being produced by those suppliers will also get into trouble. So we are also seeing some companies are managing their supply chain sustainability in terms of working hours, labor standards, health and safety issues of their suppliers as well. So there's a wide range of issues that companies will look at. I mean, on environmental impact, but also something beyond the environmental impacts as well. But of course, one questions that companies always ask is how to effectively track this matrix in their operations, given that somehow this is something maybe relatively new to many companies. So how to track that will be a very essential one. So as mentioned, the key is to look at how to regularly track and monitor. So in order to track and monitor, there are several steps that companies will can do in terms of looking at uh, checking that on a regular basis. First is to what are the standards and tools that companies can looking at. Many companies have started to implement the environmental management system, adopt standards or frameworks such as the ISO 14000 standards, and it can help to provide guidelines for checking and improving companies' performance as well. You don't necessarily need to get a certification for those standards, but you can make reference to those standards, make it as a part of your environmental management, make reference to some principles or how the way that you can do that, and the way that how other companies are doing that. I believe it will be something that will be really meaningful for you as a reference. And second, there are also quite a numbers of tools in the markets. You don't really need to look at some really fantastic, really comprehensive, really sophisticated one. Even as mentioned, many of the environmental impacts or matrix, you have access to those information. For example, when we talk about energy consumption, you look at your electricity bill, your gas bill, your water bill, how much fuel you consume. You have records, right? You pay the fuel bills, right? So all the information you have the relevant documents or records. So how to turn those records into your regular collections of those environmental informations. You can leverage different types of the tools, even Excel spreadsheet. It will be something that will be pretty easy to look at. But of course, if your business is more complicated, you have multiple locations, it will be good to also to look at to invest in some environmental management software, some cloud-based solutions as well, which there are quite a numbers of those available in the market, and the with a good price as well. Good is a pretty good bargain in the market as well, given that there are quite a numbers of startup in the market. And of course, eventually you want to ensure that your practices are in good shape. You want to showcase to your stakeholders that you have a good environmental management. You can also participate in those certification programs as well, getting being third party verified, get a certifications on environmental management. So these are all the areas that you can start with. But of course, in order to track those environmental impact matrix, you need to ensure that those you track are meaningful to you in terms of first to look at your environmental impact on the environment. Second dimension is those matrix make sense to you as a business. If you are managing, I mean, the electricity consumption, energy consumption well, it also bring you benefit by reducing the operating cost. So you need to identify the matrix first, and then use different measures, different means, and then identify relevant data owners within your organization to do a regular checking and monitoring. So this is some hints that I would like to give for SME who want to start your journey to track your matrix. But more importantly, after getting those information, as a management, you also need to discuss and see what are the implications as well. So that you can have more chances for you to have further improvement on your environmental management.
Thanks for the really great insights, Brian. So, what challenges do businesses, especially SMEs, face when quantifying environmental impacts, and how can they overcome them?
Yeah, I believe there are 4 to 5 major challenges that we are seeing. The first one is, of course, always the limited resources for SMEs, financial resources, manpower, technical expertise, whether they can conduct such a comprehensive environmental impact assessment, right? So this is challenges we always see. In terms of solutions, of course, I think in the last episode we also mentioned there are quite numbers of government grants, subsidies, or even we see that in by some non-profit organizations, NGOs, academic institutions, they offer some free tools for companies to look at their environmental footprint as well. So leverage those grants or support or tools, free tools from those organizations, and then utilize a cost-effective and also user-friendly tools and software that designed for SMEs will be something that is important. But also look at how to train someone up in your organization so that you have someone to look at those issues on a regular basis. So I think this is the first challenge that we're seeing, the limited resources. The second one is on data collection difficulties. Of course, depends on how complicated your organization is, whether you are a relatively huge organization or your organization with multiple locations, you involve in different industries. So some SMEs may find it difficult to collect accurate and reliable information on various environmental metrics. So in such case, what are the solutions? First is, of course, you look at your peers. What are they collecting at the moment in terms of sustainability data? And also to look at whether, also similar to the recommendations on limited resources, what are the available technologies that you can use to do a monitoring. And of course, if you have more resources and if you are in a built environment, you may also be able to look at some technologies such as sensors or IoT device for some real-time monitoring and data gathering as well. But of course, depends on the size of your organization. So this is I think the second challenges that we are seeing. The third one, of course, is looking at whether there are incentive as well. I think lack of incentives is always a challenge for SMEs. Why they need to do such more monitoring and do the data collections. Right? Of course, we mentioned there are more and more stringent legal requirements, expectations from international buyers as well. But how to ensure that internally they understand the incentives of doing so, given that many SME may not see the immediate financial benefits from investing in environmental impact measurements and mitigations. So the solutions, of course, need to get the top management buy-in, understand and communicate the long-term benefits of doing such environmental impact management assessment, including cost saving from and efficiency improvement, how to enhance your brand reputation, compliance with relevant laws and regulations. So this is more like a top-down approach to have the whole organization in understanding the kind of a landscape. And then, of course, as mentioned, um, seeking external support, no matter from government, NGOs, collaborate. I believe there are more and more collaborations between within a, for example, some chamber of commerce, industrial organizations, and even among SMEs, and also by working with SME and their clients, their corporate clients, which are relatively big in size. Collaborations in terms of creating an ecosystem will be also very important to overcome those challenges as well. But also looking at how to tie back environmental impact measurements with some cost saving kind of measures as well. I did involve in some um, kinds work that many of those are manufacturers, and we are looking at how to combine uh, environmental, I mean, management, lean manufacturing, also health and safety together to see the business benefit of doing environmental management. So I think that the important part is how to look at the available resources and then look at the business case of doing that. And then I believe for SMEs, you can find a way out to monitor your environmental impact as a business as usual.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing the importance and tips of measuring our environmental impact. In part two of our conversation, we will delve into the technology and additional resources that SMEs can tap on to quantify environmental impacts more effectively. To our valued audience, we hope you've enjoyed today's conversation. Please remember to stay tuned to the upcoming episode of Lazada Sustainability Academy. Goodbye.